Hello and welcome to Verdict 2014. I'm Ishan Russell. The battle for Jharkhand and Jammu and Kashmir now has moved into its last leg, with just 3 more days of campaigning left for the 5th and final phase. And all party bigwigs are putting out all stops, and we'll be talking about all that and more today. But first, here are the top stories we're following. Campaigning focuses on areas going to the polls in the 5th and final phase. Prime Minister addresses rallies in Jharkhand. Parties step up the heat in areas going to polls. FIR filed against BJP candidate in Chopia, Javed Ahmed Wazir, for allegedly beating up an election agent at a booth during polling on Sunday. And the Kashmiri pundits hold the key to the BJP's fortunes in Jammu and Kashmir, but community leaders skeptical about the party's promises. Our top story today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi campaigned in Jharkhand, where he focused on the plight of the tribals, saying a single-party majority government was the only way out from the corruption and mayhem that the state has borne since its formation.
The last leg of campaigning, Prime Minister Modi was in Dumka and Barhait on Monday, and his focus was the tribal vote, a key constituency in the segment going to vote in this phase. In the lack of development and jobs that Adivasis bear the brunt of, Modi found a strong weapon of attack.
कांग्रेस के लोगों को आपकी याद नहीं आई। यहां के आपके कई नेता हमेशा कांग्रेस के पिछलग्गू बनकर के ही अपनी राजनीति करते रहे हैं। कांग्रेस सरकारों में मंत्री बन चुके हैं, लेकिन उनको कभी आदिवासियों की याद नहीं आई थी।
Once again, the Prime Minister hit out at the Congress, saying it has done little more than hold strategy sessions to attack the BJP, to spread lies and mislead the voter. And Jharkhand's voter had been taken in by them. Modi said successive coalition governments over the last 14 years since Jharkhand's formation have bled the state dry, leaving huge potential unrealized.
आदिवासियों को विश्वास हो गया है कि 40-50 साल तक राजनेताओं ने आदिवासियों को वोट बैंक माना। चुनाव आते समय वोट खरीदने के कारोबार किए, कुछ वोट के ठेकेदारों को अपने कब्जे में ले लिया, बूथ कैप्चर कर लिए, लोकतंत्र को दबोच दिया और अपना कारोबार चलाया, लेकिन जनता का भला नहीं किया।
Jharkhand has recorded over 60% voter turnout in all the 4 phases of polls so far. Turnout recorded in these elections has been unprecedented in the short history of Jharkhand as a separate state. Modi termed this a symptom of a desire for change, one the people needed to carry into this phase too.
4 चरण के मतदान में साफ कर दिया है कि बहुत सालों के बाद झारखंड में पूर्ण बहुमत वाली सरकार बनाने के संकेत दे दिए हैं आपको। अब 5वें चरण का काम क्या है? 5वें चरण का काम है 2/3 बहुमत से भाजपा की सरकार बनाना।
Dumka is the home constituency of sitting Chief Minister Hemant Soren. Lois Marandi is the BJP candidate here. This segment goes to polls on the 20th of December in the final phase. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
On to Jammu and Kashmir now, where PDP patron Mufti Mohammad Saeed addressed a rally in Rajouri today. Saeed hit out at the Congress and the National Conference for playing opportunistic politics in the state and deliberately stoking hatred with Pakistan to further their own ends. He claimed only a PDP government could give peace to the state reeling under decades of militant violence. He attacked the Congress and the National Conference for rampant corruption, blaming them for the backwardness in the state. 4 assembly segments of Rajouri are among the 20 that go to the polls in the final phase, that's on the 20th of December.
क्या है ये कांग्रेस? क्या है ये एमसी? जो लूट हो गया यहाँ, मैंने कह दिया खत्म। जहां जहां कांग्रेस मिनिस्टर, जहां कश्मीर में देख लीजिए, यहां देख लीजिए, जहां जहां है अपने कंस्टिट्यूएंसी से बाहर नहीं, लेकिन हर एक चीज की कीमत फैसला पैसा.
And Congress leader and former Chief Minister Ghulam Nabi Azad was in Jammu today. He addressed a rally in the Thana Mandi area, which goes to the polls in the fifth phase. Azad hit out at rivals National Conference, BDP and BJP, blaming them for polarizing the politics of the state. He claimed only the Congress has been able to improve Jammu and Kashmir and bring it on the road to peace, development and employment for all. He urged the people not to be befooled by what he called was the sterile rhetoric of regional parties and said only the inclusive agenda propagated by the Congress could bridge the divide these parties had created. Thana Mandi is among the 11 seats in Jammu district out of the 20 in the state that goes to the polls.
NC और PDP ये मुगल रोड सपना था, ख्वाब था, लेकिन उस ख्वाब को कांग्रेस ने और मनमोहन सिंह ने पूरा कर दिया.
And the Jammu and Kashmir police has filed an FIR against BJP candidate from Shopian, Javed Ahmed Qadri, after an election agent of an independent candidate alleged that he was manhandled by him. Qadri was booked after he allegedly thrashed an unidentified man, claiming he had entered the polling booth without a voter slip at the Mujwad in Shopian district, where polling was underway. In another incident during polling on Sunday, the BJP candidate from Amir Kadal in Srinagar, Hina Bhatt, allegedly slapped an election official, claiming irregularities. The Chief Electoral Officer has asked the District Election Officer to probe the matter and submit a report. Bhatt said that she had complained to the Election Commission over the conduct of the presiding officer and sought repolling. Now, one of the key factors that will determine the BJP's performance in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly polls will be the Kashmiri pundits. The party has promised rehabilitation of the community in the run-up to the polls. It's also promised quota for Kashmiri pundits in the Assembly. But representatives from the community still remain skeptical. Here's why.
जम्मू कश्मीर के आखिरी आदमी तक डेवलपमेंट की रोशनी, विकास की रोशनी पहुंचे.
Their dwindling numbers in the valley is not a factor for the BJP, which is trying to make inroads in Jammu and Kashmir in these elections. In its vision document, the BJP promised to reserve 3 seats for Kashmiri pundits in the 87-member assembly. But Kashmiri pundits are skeptical. They see this as just another poll gimmick.
जब उनको इलेक्शन होता है तभी वोट मांगने आते हैं हमसे. तो इन्होंने वहाँ से जम्मू से उन्होंने रिहैबिलिटेशन के लिए कश्मीरी पंडित को बुलाया है कि रिहैबिलिटेशन का मेरे को मतलब नहीं समझ रहा. रिहैबिलिटेशन किस चीज़ की है इनकी? रिहैबिलिटेशन का मतलब मेरे को सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट समझे किस चीज़ के रिहैबिलिटेशन. BJP
hopes to bag 5 assembly seats in Habakadal, Amirakadal, Sopore, Kanyar and Tral, which are Hindu majority areas. The party hopes that turnout of Muslim voters in these areas will remain low following election boycott call given by separatist leaders. The BJP is banking on the Kashmiri pundits' vote to achieve its Mission 50+ target in the valley.
कि जम्मू कश्मीर के आखिरी आदमी तक डेवलपमेंट की रोशनी, विकास की रोशनी पहुंचे. उसके लिए जो भी हमें करना होगा हम ऑनेस्टी के साथ करेंगे और आने वाले दिनों में हम आपको इस बात का यकीन दिलाते हैं कि जम्मू कश्मीर की तस्वीर और जम्मू कश्मीर में जो गुर्बत है, जो तमाम तरह की प्रॉब्लम्स है, उसको हल करने के लिए बीजेपी बहुत स्ट्रांग एंड ऑनेस्ट एफर्ट करेगी.
सबसे बड़ी पैकेज माइग्रेंटों के बारे में हुई वो नेशनल काउंसिल उमर साहब के दौर में ही हुई, जिसमें 3000 इनके बच्चों को नौकरियां दी गई और जिसके लिए उनके ज़मीनों को कंपनसेट किया गया, मकानों को कंपनसेट किया गया, जो इंडस्ट्रियल यूनिट्स हैं उनमें इनको कंपनसेशन दिया गया.
Several governments in Jammu and Kashmir have promised rehabilitation of Kashmiri pundits, but too little has been done to ensure its implementation. Pundits feel they have been reduced to an election issue.
बस वोट डालने के टाइम बस बाकी कुछ नहीं है. उसके बाद कोई नहीं है. ये आएगा वोट ले जाएगा अपना तो बस मामला खत्म. अगर उनके घर में जाएगा फिर या जहाँ रहते हैं इनका रेजिडेंस वहाँ जाएगा तो फिर उधर बोलेगा ये कौन है, कहाँ रहते हो, किधर रहते हो.
Over 1 lakh Kashmiri pundits are living in exile in Jammu and other places since their exodus from the valley in the early 1990s. No government or relief package has yet convinced them to return to the valley. It remains to be seen how they react to the olive branch offered by the BJP in these elections. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on Verdict today. But before we go, we leave you with the story about the 5th phase of polling, because all political parties are pulling out all stops and sending all the stalwarts in. So who's going to be hitting the campaign trail? Let's find out.
67 constituencies have now voted in Jammu and Kashmir, with turnout ranging from a massive 70% plus in the first two phases, a healthy 59% in militancy areas in the third phase, and 48% polling in the fourth phase on Sunday despite the cold weather. The remaining 20 constituencies of the state go to polls in the fifth phase, which includes 4 seats in Rajouri district, 5 in Kathua and 11 segments in Jammu. Some 18.2 lakh voters are eligible to cast their franchise in this phase. 213 candidates are contesting for the 20 seats. Prominent among those who will contest the elections in the fifth phase are JK Deputy Chief Minister and Congress leader Tara Chand, JK Cabinet Minister Raman Bhalla and former Congress MP Lal Singh, who has joined the BJP. In the backdrop of sustained terrorist violence through these elections, fifth phase remains a security challenge. Jharkhand has consistently returned a 60% plus voter turnout in all the phases of voting so far. Areas with high Maoist threat, places like Girdi, Bokaro and Dhanbad saw a high voter turnout. The state is going to the 4th assembly polls in the 14 years since its formation. 16 assembly segments go to polls in the fifth phase of voting on the 20th of December. These areas are spread over 5 districts of Sahibganj, Pakur, Dumka, Goda and Devgarh in the extreme eastern belt of the state. Once again, most of these constituencies are in areas with a high Maoist threat perception. Officials say security will be top priority. There is also a high presence of tribal voters. Reaching deep into forest territory will be a big challenge for polling parties ahead of polling day. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.